The Front Row Show does not reflect the views of Utah State Athletics, or its affiliates.
Excuse me, what the hell's going on out here?
I wish I could say something that was classy and inspirational, but that just wouldn't be our style.
Stick this in your trophy case.
Aggie basketball takes to the court again Friday, with football returning Saturday. It's a doubleheader weekend in Logan, and this is the Front Row Show. What is up, Utah State? Welcome to another episode of the Front Row Show. As always, we're your hosts. I'm Matt Sonnenberg.
I'm Lance Rasmussen.
And I'm Jeff Browning. Welcome back from the bye week.
I'm feeling good this week, guys. I'm feeling good.
We pretty much took last week off.
Yeah. Hope the fans enjoyed our basketball preview. We'll talk basketball a little bit later.
Hey, shout out about that to Kyle Goon, by the way, who ran into buying a ticket for the game Friday, had his iPod in listening to us.
Well done, Kyle.
Officially friend of the program. I mean, he's been on already, but
I dare say so.
You know, I'm glad that we're bouncing ideas off each other here.
So I think the upbeat attitude maybe is due to Utah State trouncing New Mexico 2 weekends ago.
Oh, it felt good.
It felt good. It was the medicine that was needed for this football team.
Here's the thing about that game. Everybody's nervous. We got the new quarterback. We're on the road, and we're thinking, all right, you know, we got to win this one to get back on track. If we lose this, then the wheels have really come off. We kick off to them, 1 yard loss. 1 yard loss. Fumble, recovered by the Aggies, hand off to Joey D, touchdown. I mean, I can't imagine things starting better for the Aggies. It was
all good from there.
And, I mean, that was just kind of a taste of the overall vibe that game had to offer for Utah State.
And it really seemed like all the pieces fell together at the same point. Special teams, offense, defense, everything clicked. And on top of and really, I think that this is the team that we've been waiting to see all year, and it's what they're really capable of. But they've just been going up against so many really talented other squads that we haven't watched all the pieces fall together. And, you know, there have been a lot of naysayers out there saying, oh, we could potentially not even go bowling again this year, to which I say nay. But I can't imagine that we're not going to watch the same kind of performance that we saw out of our team last week for the remainder of the season.
Here's the thing. Everyone was focused on Daryl Garrettson making his first official start at quarterback. I was impressed with our defense. You're talking about a New Mexico team that's the number 2 run offense in the country, and Casey Carrier had no success whatsoever against this Utah State defense. Back to form, and that is a defense that will not only carry you into a bowl game, but could potentially, depending on how the cards fall, could potentially find yourself in the Mountain West Championship game.
Well, and a huge shout-out to Tar Orlando for that, because we completely changed our scheme. We went into basically a 4-lineman scheme and a 4-3 defense for the majority of the game, specifically to counter that running attack, which shows the versatility of a whole lot of our players. We've got an experienced defense who knows what they're doing and is comfortable enough not only in their own sets, but to be able to reach out and expand into other things, and we just shut New Mexico down. Yeah,
it was a thrill to watch. I'm stoked on the offense. You know, let's talk about Daryl Garrettson for a bit, because that was the big thing with this game, is seeing how the kid would respond. And granted, it was a limited sample size, but the kid looked all right out there. I dare say he looked pretty good. I think his throws were on point. He had some zip on the ball. He was hitting guys where he needed to and really reading the field surprisingly well for a freshman.
He did not make a lot of mistakes, which is kind of what is the most you can ask of him at this point.
And what stood out to me about Daryl Garrettson was on the rollouts that Utah State runs. In the past couple of games, Craig Harrison was missing those throws, and just barely, but just enough that the receivers were not completing the catch. But Garrison was hitting those on point, and that's a big deal. And to me, like you guys said, he showed the poise, he showed the confidence. The kid's got moxie. He's had it all along, and it just came out. And I understand New Mexico, they're not a good football team, but so what?
That's one other note about this, and this is why I'm hesitant to get too stoked on Garrettson. Like I said, small sample size, but also New Mexico's defense was the slowest thing I've ever seen, because they just couldn't catch up to anybody. Joey DiMartino is a great running back. He is shown to be an absolute stud this season, but he doesn't have that extra gear that a Kerwin Williams or a Robert Turbin or Michael Smith had. And he was still just burning past those guys. And when he wasn't burning past them, he was giving him the old get the hell off me stiff arm right to him and taking his freaking trip to the end zone that he had earned.
He's actually showed a surprising amount of burst. It was the SC game when I looked at him and went, wow, that guy has a gear that I don't think we've seen before. But I think you're right. Like, we were playing against a pretty mediocre, well, I won't even give him mediocre.
No.
It was a pretty porous and terrible defense. But you're going to be playing against some pretty terrible and mediocre defenses for the rest of the season.
And Lance, you brought up this point earlier that this was finally a game where you saw all three facets of this football team come together. Talk special teams. Not only do you have Jaron Bentrud with the longest run of the year, but then JoJo Natson returning a punt for a touchdown.
And another one that should have, I didn't see the penalty on that play, but he took another one back that they brought back from a block in the back. But yeah, I mean, that defense, JoJo Natson, all right, I can understand him blowing past guys, but man, Jaron Bentrud with some wheels out there, huh? Like, I think that could not have been planned. There's no way that in that situation we're running the fake punt. But you've noticed over the last few games, Bentrud's kind of done that rugby-style punt where he'll roll out a few steps and let it rip. And in this instance, there was nobody there. And
there was still
it
nobody
seems like
there.
Everybody for the whole play from the coverage team was looking up and looking back, wondering, where's the ball? And it was behind them in the hands of the punter going to the end zone.
Was to watch Matt Wells on the sideline with his arms folded going, huh?
He had the total, what the hell just happened? Look.
And Bob Davie, even afterwards, the New Mexico coach commented on that and saying, that's on us. If we're not going to be smart enough to defend that play, we deserve to get burned. And, yeah, they did all night.
So my bold prediction for the rest of the season, you're going to watch JoJo take at least 2 more back, by the way.
You're going 2 more?
2 more.
Wow. I'd be content with 1, but if he does,
that's why I called it a bold prediction.
I'll buy you something if that happens.
Awesome. I like some things.
Yeah. Look, I mean, just mostly because if he takes back 2 more punts, I'll be stoked. It'll be worth the price of whatever I buy Lance. And if he doesn't, whatever. Let's win some football games.
Yeah.
Huh?
Utah State continues its softer side of the schedule. This week in Romney Stadium, we return home to face the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, who are, according to Matt Wells, the worst team in the country.
Well, that ain't saying much if the label of worst
say.
team in the country is anywhere in your description. But it's valid. Hawaii is terrible. And, it's one of those things where for years people thought Norm Chow, he's such a great coordinator. He's run such great offenses in the places he's been. He's bounced around to a lot of jobs around the country. You look at USC's heyday in the mid-2000s. That was with Norm Chow at the helm of that. And he finally, for whatever reason, decided to take a head coaching job when Hawaii came knocking. And it's really looking like
he should
coordinator
not have
was
done
where
that.
he belonged all along. They just... I get that they've been close in some games, but this is a Utah State team that is out to prove they're still hungry. Like, they one blowout win over New Mexico without your stud quarterback that went down a couple games ago. That's not what they want. This team wants to go bowling. They want to do it again. They want to do it for a 3rd time in a row because they're already the only guys in USU history that have been to 2 bowl games in a row.
Yeah.
Why not stretch it to 3 and looking forward, probably 4, but they're obviously focused on this year. I don't think they're letting a 0-7 Hawaii team get in the way of that.
Well, and, Hawaii is sitting in the bottom 10% in just about every statistical category you can imagine.
Except for one.
Except for that
passing
pass offense,
Yep, that's it.
And granted, people will say, well, that's the one place where they could potentially hurt us, but their defense is abysmal on both ends of the spectrum, either pass or rush. And we've proved that we can hit you pass or rush. Their run offense is non-existent, so I think you'll see the exact opposite of what we saw last time against New Mexico, and that we will not be playing a 4-3, but we will be playing a very liberal 3-4, dropping a lot of guys into coverage and making them beat us through the air.
And I think what you'll see with this Utah State team is a team that is hungry to win in front of the home fans again and start to build a new home winning streak. And last couple games at Romney Stadium have left kind of a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. And again, the great medicine is a team like Hawaii coming in that you can really just pound into oblivion.
Yeah, and you know what? It's kind of what we need. I think a lot of people, there was a reservation, I think, to get too excited after all the injuries and the loss to Boise State, the loss to BYU. It crushed a lot of people's kind of high hopes for replicating another 10 or 11 win season. But look, we said it at the start. 8-4 ain't bad.
No.
And you look at where Boise State is with their struggles now all of a sudden. I mean, and for how good San Diego State looked, San Diego State almost knocked off Fresno. Took them to overtime this last week. It's not at all out of the realm of possibility that when Boise State travels to San Diego, they could lose that game. And if they do, and Utah State wins out, that is a berth in the Mountain West Championship game for Utah State, which would be unbelievable. And say what you will about Fresno, they're a very good team. I don't think they're quite as good. I honestly, I'll say maybe being the 16th or 17th ranked team in the country is fitting, but that's not out of reach for Utah State.
They're not a juggernaut by any. They're not a juggernaut by any means.
They're a juggernaut by some means. I mean, they're undefeated.
Their offense is good, but
their offense is good, but they're also a little inconsistent. The defense, yeah,
that's the concern.
I mean. And so this is something we need one more piece to fall in place, and then USU controls its own destiny, which, like I said, I've said it a handful of times since then. If through all of this, through just what has been basically a disaster of a season of tough losses
injuries
on the road and injuries and, what looks like to be maybe to some unmet expectations, we could still be on the verge of something pretty incredible here.
Well, and it all really starts this week. Once again, I mean, we talked about how after the Boise State game, with as bad as things were, we had the perfect cure. A road game against a terrible team who we demolished, a bye week to get healed up and get back into practice, and a home game now to win our fans back over against a terrible team.
Yeah.
So if we have those three things go, that builds player confidence, it builds player health, relationships, and it builds our fan confidence back up, where we should be in a good spot for the rest of the season. It's going to be a wonderful weekend for football, too. You got to get there.
Oh, for sure.
60 degrees.
It's supposed to be 60 degrees and sunny. I mean, it was snowing this morning in Logan, and it's supposed to be 60 degrees and sunny come Saturday. This could be the best weather we've had for a game yet, in November of all times. One other note, though, about that whole bye week. You look at the progress that Daryl Garrettson made just from the second half of the Boise game through one full week of practicing with the first team, one full week of those reps, and how good he looked against New Mexico. Now he's had 2 more weeks of practice against a way better defense than New Mexico could throw at us. I think we could see even more progress from the kid.
And a better defense than what Hawaii will throw at us, too.
Yeah. Hawaii's going to be bad. It's just...
It's encouraging.
It's going to be a fun game.
Yeah.
What else do you do on a November afternoon
and
come watch the Aggies?
A fun rest of the year for Utah State football. Like, people that were jumping off the cliff and saying, the year's over, I don't know why you would do that. There's still so much more football to be played.
And a bowl game. We're totally going to go to a bowl game. And I don't know if you've been there the last 2 years, but
it's an awesome
time. I feel terrible for the generations of USU fans that missed out or haven't, I feel like I'm part of a lucky generation. Granted, my freshman year was 2006 when we went 1-11. but since then, I'm part of a lucky generation that we've gone to 2 bowl games, and it is the most fun in the world.
I gave Matt the biggest high five at the last one, even though we had no idea who each other were. Well, I knew who he was, but we had no idea who I was. That's the kind of love that's up there.
Yes, exactly. So why jump off that when this is at stake? I mean, it's gonna be awesome.
Especially if you've lived through the 06 season. Why would you jump off now?
Gosh, yeah. Which is exactly the reason you shouldn't sleep on Hawaii. Because if that 06 Utah State team could win a game, anyone could.
No,
but hey,
not this Saturday.
I've been gushing about the Aggies. Gosh, I'm still stoked about football. We need to shift gears, I think.
We are going to
shift
shift gears.
Time to something else I'm stoked on?
It is. The Utah State fans got their first look at the Aggie basketball team on Friday night as Utah State took on Central Methodist, put up over 100 points. Coach Mora was not too pleased about giving up 88 points to a NIA team.
Nor should he have been.
Yeah. I don't know. This game, it's an exhibition game. It's the first game for a lot of these guys. They're worried about finding out who's going to be in the rotation. And personally, this is just my opinion, I don't think the team really cared to play defense in this game. Defense is about desire, and it's about technique. And you could just see it. To me, the desire was just not there for defense.
See, I kind of feel a little differently. I feel for a lot of the guys, the desire was there. The technique was what was missing.
Okay.
I think a lot of these guys weren't used to, some of the switches, the rotations, the lateral movement at game speed. I think it caught a lot of them off guard. Also, let's be honest. We had, 16 fouls called on us in the first half.
And
Central Methodist was in the double bonus when there were still 11 and a half minutes left in the first half. My theory on this is that Stu told these refs before the game, because it's an exhibition. What do they have to gain or lose? He had to have told them, guys, call it tight on my boys. Because you look at the names, all three regulars at the Spectrum.
Yeah.
We'll see each one of these guys 4 or 5 times throughout the season. They've been here plenty. Obviously, they know Stu. And it's an exhibition. Look, USC's the ones paying their paycheck, I'm sure, for this game. Why not have them go out there and say, hey, call it tight on my boys. I want to teach them a lesson after this.
Well, a game like this definitely got their attention. If you listen to the post-game comments afterwards, from Spencer Butterfield, they realized that they play defense like this against a Division I opponent. It's going to be a long year in Logan. I don't believe that will happen because I still think this team is capable of growing, and they're going to be a good defensive team this year. They should be able to rebound well. All is not. People that are looking too much into this game need to stop because it's just one game.
Now let me play a bit of devil's advocate here and say that
you like to do
a lot of. Oh, I know. I think outside the box, but a lot of what you're seeing comes from a lot more fast break and quick shot basketball that we're playing. We got more possessions off, I believe, in this game than we have in a while as far as our average, which means our opponent also got more shots than they're used to be able to get. We were shooting and scoring within the first 5-10 seconds off the clock, as opposed to what we normally do, which is use the first 10-15 seconds to milk down, get our set up, then we start moving, score with 10 or less seconds left in the game. When you're doing that and you're consistently converting into points, which we did, obviously, seeing as we broke 100, you're also going to be giving your opponents more opportunities. Now, granted, it comes back to technique because we need to prevent them from scoring off of those, but we are going to see opportunities where other teams are going to be able to put up a lot of points if we are also moving as fast as we are capable of, which was awesome.
Let's also not overlook the numbers here too. USU, if you're shooting 63.8% from the field and 50% from the 3-point line, okay, yeah, they'll score 108 points. But also, you look at Central Methodist, they shot 56.3% from the field, 61.9% from 3. They couldn't miss from deep. So, granted, our guys, we have some length, we have some athleticism. We need to get better and get out there and contest those shots better. No question, this team needs to improve a lot defensively. But look at the scoring ability of this team. Now, think back to this time last year. It basically became a scenario where we had a lot of offensive inconsistency early on in the year where the real only guy we could kind of rely on was Preston Medlin. Keyshawn Reed had some big games, but still had that little bit of inconsistency. Same with Jared Shaw. And once, by the time Spencer Butterfield really came into his own as a dominant scorer, we had already lost Danny Berger, and it was around that same time that Preston Medlin and Keyshawn Reed went out for the year. So essentially, for the later part of the year, it was a theme of stop Butterfield, stop Shaw, you stop the Aggies. We couldn't score. It was a struggle every game. And luckily we had a few guys later on that made it interesting with Roland finishing strong, Ben Clifford finishing strong. But it was a struggle. Now you look at it, now we have Preston Medlin, who was spectacular in this game. I think Preston came out and reminded everyone just how good he is. He just has such a phenomenal feel for the game and just understanding where to go and what move is available to him. We have him back, and he looks better than ever. Spencer Butterfield, reeled off 20 points.
And 4 for 4 from
4
3.
for 4 from 3.
7 of 9.
He's still going to do what he does. Jared Shaw looked awesome in the post. And that's without mentioning that Danny Berger made a few big shots, and it looks to be playing with some new intensity. Kyle Davis, he'll be kind of your hustle points. He'll be your scrapper down low. We didn't get a lot from Roland. We didn't get a lot from Marcel Davis. We know we're going to get some from them. And then, obviously, I think the big X factor that everybody's really kind of stoked on is Jalen Moore, who also scored pretty effectively.
The Fro has powers.
Yes.
It has powers. And there is something to say about this freshman. He is talented. He is definitely skilled. He still has some growing up to do.
He's also a freshman.
At the Division I level. There were times, and we talked about this before the show, where he would kind of Brady Jardine it. He would get a little fast and try to make plays before he had the basketball. Those are things that come with experience.
Definitely.
But this is a guy that is a high Mountain West caliber player.
And I gotta put a quick stipulation on this, saying a lot of people are going to start immediately drawing parallels from him to J.C. Carroll. No, which is fine to do, because I anticipate that both of them are going to have fantastic long-term careers at Utah State. But J.C. Carroll was a return missionary by the time he started playing for Utah State, which is a huge difference between where he and Jalen Moore is going to be. There is a physical and mental maturity that comes from waiting until that point to start. I think Jalen Moore could potentially eclipse J.C. Carroll in some ways at Utah State by the end of his career.
They're also different players.
And they're different players. But you cannot accept or expect the exact same amount of productivity, maturity, and a lack of mistakes that we saw out of J.C. Carroll, out of Jalen Moore. Once again, that being said, he's going to be an awesome addition to this team.
I think the main point is, yes, we did struggle defensively. Stu is going to ingrain that in his boys. There's just no way he's going to let them get away with not improving defensively. But you can sure as heck say that we improved offensively. And I think one guy that deserves plenty of mention on both ends of this, who I think has performed well on both ends, Jordan Stone. Wow. We just think about how far this dude has come as a basketball player. It is absolutely incredible how far he's come. And look, he's still got a bit to go. He's not a finished product by any means. But, man, there was one play in the second half of that game where they were just trying to get it down low to Stone. And I think something happened, or maybe he missed a shot and they got an offensive board and they reset back up, and it was get it back to Jordan again. Mm-hmm. So you get that size and that strength down low, even with the limited array of post moves he has, if those can be effective, it gives you quite the dynamic, especially if he and Shaw are playing alongside each other.
And this is going to be something that I think, I don't know if we have ever had as prime of an offensive squad for scoring under Stu's system as we have right now, because we've got 2 point guards who are proven distributors, and literally every other player on the field is going to be able to score. Any player on the court can put the ball in the basket at any given point.
And that is a nice luxury to have.
That is exactly the way that Stu Morrill's offense is designed to work, because you never know, is he going to roll off the screen this time? Are they going to pick and roll? Is there an outside shot to go up to it? We are going to be able to confuse so many defenses just because you never know where the shot's going to come from.
Rounding out my recap of this game, there's 2 moments that I want to bring up that I thought were really cool. One was a few minutes into the game when Jalen Moore first checked into the game. He got a roaring applause. I think that speaks to being a hometown kid, a product of a dad that played at USU. He has the afro, the likability. He's been in the Sports Center top 10. And you can tell that people are excited about this kid and are ready to wrap their arms around him. And I think he's ready to do the same. But not long after that, there was a moment that was a lot cooler. And it was really one of the cooler moments that I've seen in the Spectrum. It was when Danny Berger checked in.
Yep.
Jalen Moore got a nice loud roar. Danny Berger's was quite a bit bigger, and that was very cool because, it obviously he was a starter when he went down, and he probably won't this year. Spencer Butterfield is a bona fide superstar ahead of him, and that's fine. Danny Berger's a team guy. I'm sure he more than understands that, but he's back with this team now, and he's playing, and the crowd gave him a roaring applause. And I think it was the first possession. They got it to him. He lets the three-pointer go and nailed it.
Magic does happen.
It was absolutely amazing. It was just one of those things. It feels weird to say it was a heartfelt moment, given that situation, but it was, because he came right out, got the applause, and hit the shot. Hell of a moment for Danny. I'm so glad he's back, and just that's Aggie Nation doing what you do.
Well, and we talked about this last year when Danny went down, and even again this year, that there are moments that are bigger than sports. They're about people, and that was one of those moments where it wasn't about the three-point basket. It wasn't about the game. It was about an individual who we all love and care about because he's one of us. And that was, like you said, it was like the
awesome. Best of both worlds with
the
cool. Individuals and people. Great moment. Hats off to you, Spectrum. Another quick note. Shooting section.
Well done.
For an exhibition game.
Well done.
Hell yeah, boys. That's what I got to say.
Yeah. I was just saying, in closing, my last thought on this game. Now you know where you're at. You've played one exhibition game. Now you can make the adjustments. Next Friday, the team plays Adams State. You'll be able to see those adjustments made. The defense will improve. There's no way they're going to play defense like that again. And now we can really move forward with this basketball team and get even more excited for this upcoming year.
It's going to be fun.
All right, fans, this is your chance to interact with us and get your questions and comments on the air with us here. Well, I've that up again.
It's the tweet sheet! Bleep it and roll it.
Derek leads us off tonight. He says,
Hi, Derek.
Derek, who came on out to our last watch party, the New Mexico game. Shout out to he and Ben for holding it down amongst it was basically those guys, a couple from us from the Front Row Network, and a few members of the basketball team showed up to watch. Yeah, we had Sean Harris, like Danny Berger was out there. Brady Jardine came on out, watched the game. So solid turnout at Savannah's for the last watch party.
Everyone, just a reminder, away games, there's usually a watch party going on there. Come on out.
It is a good time. Blast. It's 2 for 2 in my book of awesome successes. Anyway, Derek, what you got?
Should we answer his question?
Let's answer his question. Or we can keep talking about how awesome he is.
And Savannah's.
Yeah. Oof, let's talk tweets.
All right. Will the next game be like when we lost to EA Sports and then completely ran over the next team? We didn't lose this game.
Yeah, I'm going to say no. It's going to be another exhibition game. I would expect improvements. I would at least hope so. We need to be better defensively. I think Stu is going to hammer that one hard this week because he knows that if his team gets in a bind offensively, they'll still be able to score in a scramble. 10 seconds left on the shot clock, get it to somebody, they'll be able to score. We can do that. What the focus will be on practice this week, I'm pretty sure will be defense. So count on a blowout.
Well, and on top of that, you're playing Adams State, which is an actual school, as opposed to EA Sports, which is a conglomeration of graduated people out of college.
Yeah, and like a borderline college all-star team.
I believe Cardell Butler was playing on that team when we lost to them.
We lost to him a handful of times, actually.
No.
What was the most recent one? I know there was an Aggie...
2008.
2008?
That was the last time we played him because we can't play him anymore.
Was that Butler who was on the squad that year?
He was there in 05, I believe. 05 or 06.
But yeah,
because he graduated in 04.
FYI, he has one of the best Spectrum moments of all time.
No question.
When he's walking out and he kisses the floor. Oh, yeah. Glorious.
But yeah, so no, we're playing the lower tiers of current college players as opposed to would-be pros on their way to the off-American circuit. So yeah, we're not going to lose this game.
One other note, though, Adams State a couple years ago was a very athletic team because we played them before a few years back, and they were surprisingly athletic. Obviously we beat them, but they'll hopefully present a nice little challenge for our guys. I believe they have former Aggie commit Norvell Arnold playing for them.
Yep.
Who a lot of people point as a guy that when his recruiting fell through, it really set us back a bit on the wings.
I hold to that theory. I believe that.
I think it's totally legitimate, and he'll be coming here, and he'll probably be getting his.
So we can call him Football Head the entire night, right?
Hey, Wacky Arnold, tobacco. I'm on it. I got you.
Jeff tweets in, how bad are we going to kill BYU this year at Energy Solutions?
I don't know what to make of this game. This is going to be an interesting game.
Here's the thing. BYU, they're a good team. As much as we hate to admit it, they still have some good players. Tyler Haws is a very good player. Eric Mika,
also
a terrible
just
singer.
A dreamy 80s singer.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh boy.
What?
Dude, I would take him over Peter Cetera any day of the week.
They make it too easy. But the guy I'm interested for BYU this year is Eric Mika, the freshman. That guy is a beast, and there is no denying it. However, you're looking at a Utah State team that last year was, as has been well documented, nothing but a bunch of bench players for the most part. And
took them to the wire in their house.
And they needed a miracle from a walk-in who they refused to give a scholarship to, even though they had a couple available. They needed that miracle
Let me
to
ask
win.
you this. Mika versus Jordan Stone.
Mika's more skilled.
Mika's more skilled.
I don't care about
Stone has the experience.
You got the
and
experience
strength,
and the
no
size.
question.
I mean, the thing is you can put a skilled freshman on the court against him, or even against Jared Shaw. I'm giving our guys the advantage in both situations.
Is Mika going to be starting for them? Are we thinking that's a possibility?
I think Mika is that good. I think Mika is that good.
I think he is too. Don't get me wrong. I think one guy to watch for them, I believe he's back from a mission now. Collinsworth.
Yep.
I mean, we could be seeing another scenario kind of like with Tyler Haws, where he's pretty good as a freshman, went on a mission, came back, and was really good.
The more interesting matchup is going to be Tyler Haws versus Jordan Stone.
Yeah, well, Tyler Haws versus Jordan Stone's butt landing on his head. Tyler Haws versus Karma.
Well, here's my X factor for the game. They've apparently moved the student sections from where they had previously been in Energy Solutions to the entire section behind each basket. And as we have proven before in years past, one of the two student section will actually show up in force and be worthwhile, and the other one will be a bunch of kids from Provo. I really think that it could actually make a huge amount of difference. I was there. We were there camped out with some of the big players out of the herd this week. We got our tickets early. I'm going to be courtside for it. I'm stoked. But I think having the Spectrum on wheels make that trip down can be the difference in that game.
Yeah, back in 08-09, the first time we did that game, that was I feel like that game was a point of pride for the Spectrum on wheels. For one, all the local media commented on it. It was a big story of just how brightly the Spectrum outshined BYU student section. It was not even close. They said the USU students were there hours before, loud and rowdy, and I believe it was Gordon Monson. I could be wrong. Maybe it was someone.
Dick Harmon.
Dick Harmon, yes.
Yeah.
Total BYU homer. Described them as a family home evening meeting without a lesson planner. So this is one of those days that the herd needs to come out and basically show that you are still the cream of the crop.
Well, and if there's one thing that I know that Utah State students can rally around as far as, besides our own team motivating us, it's BYU, especially after what went down with our football game against them this year. Their entire fan base has been just talking trash. They've been saying that we're not worth being there in football nor in basketball. It's time to shut them up. So I know our boys are going to show up as far as the basketball team, and I really like our matchup against them this year. But our student section needs to make that journey down too, and I think we're going to watch a lot of really cool results from it.
When it comes to Utah State and BYU in basketball, it's personal, at least for Utah State, and that's a big deal. So, our favorite Uncle Brian tweets
What's
in.
up, Uncle Brian? I want to meet this guy. I feel like he's the kind of uncle who would give you like $20 bills and tell you to go buy stuff with it.
Slip you drinks.
No, goodness, no. Uncle Brian is an upstanding
Yeah,
citizen.
that was Uncle Jim. Come on.
He asks, who will step up on defense, and what will our scoring average be this year? This was the interesting thing in Stu Morrill's press conference afterwards, is he said there is not a single player on this team who is a defensive stopper. And on Utah State's championship teams, they always had a couple.
Everyone was, for the most part. I mean, you look at that 09 team, everyone was pretty good. I mean, Gary Wilkinson was so-so at times, but you could always put Ty Wesley on the other team's best post scorer, and you were good to go. Same thing with 2010. Suddenly Jared Quayle became kind of the weak link, and he was still pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
The defensive stopper, that's a tough one. I love Jordan Stone in that role. I think he looks more athletic. He looks in the best shape he's ever been. and he's just so strong in the post. He needs to be that guy. But Jared Shaw has got to use that athleticism. But also with that, JoJo McGlaston could be, and this is why I think he might not redshirt. This is why they're saying right now the plan's not to redshirt him. It could change, but I think he has the highest ceiling defensively of anyone on our wings with his size, his athleticism. I've said it before, he looks like physically a hybrid between Tyler Newbold and Pooh Williams.
That's a good hybrid to have.
Two of the best defenders I've ever seen.
Well, there's a reason. Stu challenged him when he got here to be the best defensive player he has ever had, and Stu would not do that unless he believed he could pull it off. But on the mark of Jordan Stone and Jared Shaw, I really think that our post defense could be incredibly solid with those two, especially because Stone is just playing so much smarter this year. I think a lot of the things and mistakes that we saw him making in the past has just been because he's been swimming to keep up with the pace of the game. It's been just mental errors. He's prepped. You can tell that he's put time and effort into really trying to get things together with his own game plan. If he can play smart ball, he's going to be, he's not going to be an unstoppable offensive presence, but he'll just be a presence that's going to be difficult to deal with on all parts of the court.
Yep.
What will our scoring average be this year? Second part of the question.
Oh, man. I'm going to go a good, solid Stu Morrill-esque 79 points a game.
I dig it. Lance, care to follow up on that?
80 points, Bob.
You had to one-up me. Jeff, you going to chime in with $1, Bob?
80.5.
Oh.
Spencer tweets.
Not even cool.
Spencer tweets in. He says, who wins a high jump death match, Jalen Moore or JoJo McGlaston?
A high jump death match?
Yes.
JoJo McGlaston.
To the death. Really?
Yeah.
The Fro has powers.
But Jalen Moore gets there quicker.
I agree with that.
Oh, that could be fair.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Jalen Moore gets to the hoop faster. JoJo McGlaston will eventually go higher.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can dig it.
Dallin from the Herd tweets in. He says, will Jaron Bentrude's record hold this weekend with having the longest scoring touchdown the entire season?
I'm going to say yeah. It holds through this weekend, but it will not hold for the rest of the season.
I'm going to go no. But we're going to see it on special teams.
Okay. What are your Joe Natson predictions?
No. JoJo will run a punt back this week, but it's because it's going to be really short. I'm predicting Tay Glover Wright brings one back.
Okay.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. 2 special teams
I like it a
touchdowns from
lot.
different players.
See,
It's going to be 103 yards total, by the way.
I'm going to go.
Also, it will happen in the third quarter.
I'll play devil's
Holy
advocate.
crap. I got specific.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I'll play
on the record.
I'll play devil's advocate. I'll say that will be the longest run we have this year.
Hey, if
So
all that
there.
happens, I'll buy you something nicer.
Ooh. Double things. You hear that, Uncle Brian? You might need to slip me $40 next time.
Competition.
The guys from the whiteboard tweet in. They say, what's more embarrassing, being 0-7 or being called a Rainbow Warrior?
I can't diss the Rainbow Warrior thing
Yeah,
too much.
0-7.
The fact, well, yeah, first of all, 0-7 is really embarrassing. But the fact that they looked and went, you know what? Our heritage is more important than any of this modern cultural perceivance nonsense and put the rainbow back into their title. Good on them.
Yeah.
Hey, you walk up to anyone on that football team and call them any sort of name for having rainbow in that title, and you let me know what happens to you.
They need to go back to having the rainbow with the UH coming out of it.
Yes, they
that
do.
needs to happen. Richie King tweets in. He says, can I legitimately hope for a Boise loss and the Aggies winning out the rest of the season, or is that a false hope?
That is an absolutely legitimate hope. And by the way, what's up, Richie? Long time no see. That is, I think, completely within the realm of possibility. I mentioned it earlier, but Boise State has that tough game at San Diego State, who suddenly is playing good football. A lot of people wrote them off after a rough start to the season.
I wrote them off.
They're playing well now, and Boise has to travel to San Diego for that game. They'll probably still be without Joe Southwick, and it is a very, very decent possibility that it ends up being the second conference loss for Boise while the Aggies cruise off into finishing off the season strong in a Mountain West championship game berth.
Here's the thing. When you lose your quarterback like Boise did, and we understand this better than anyone, it changes the game. It changes the season for you.
It's a little difficult.
Garrett tweets in. He says he never thought UNLV would have a better record in football than Utah State this far into the season. Thoughts on that? Here's my thought. UNLV has played a terrible schedule up until this point. And the two teams they played that are somewhat decent, Minnesota and Arizona, they got destroyed.
Right? I mean, you can't say much more than that. Like, it's a nice number, but as far as does that represent a threat to them actually beating Utah State now?
I feel UNLV sometimes doesn't get enough credit. A lot of people kind of write them off, but I think they can still draw decent talent there. And I feel last year, we remember that whiteout game as being a really memorable night, a great night for USU fans.
They played hard.
Showing up hard. But yeah, UNLV was a decent team out there. They weren't terrible. I mean, we beat them handily, and we did what we had to do. But, that game wasn't put away
until
too early.
Third or the fourth quarter.
Like third quarter, when we finally felt like we were really in control of things.
In a game like UNLV, which we'll face after Hawaii, this is a case where Utah State's defense, they're the ones who win the game for Utah State. And I think that's the X factors. Utah State has the best defense in the Mountain West.
I said it before. I just do not see teams scoring against us. I mean, and here's, you know what? Another bold prediction for the season coming up.
Ooh, man.
Our defense is not going to give up more than 3 touchdowns for the remaining of the season.
Whoa!
Total?
Total.
Oh, man, that's bold. You're going to have those late game situations where, teams are going to get a garbage touchdown, like New Mexico.
Starters in. We'll predict that.
Okay.
You know what? First 3 quarters. We'll do that. You will not see
Still
more
bold.
than three touchdowns
That
in the
is-
first 3 quarters of play for the rest of the season.
I'll buy you something even nicer.
Yes. Ramping up let's do this. That's 3 nice things.
We're going to get another raise at work here soon.
More stuff. All right, our last tweet of the night. We had a couple tweets come in, and this was actually a thread on usufans.com as well. Aggie fans are a little concerned about our recruiting in the Mountain West, and especially when you compare it to what UNLV and San Diego are doing, where they're landing 5-star guys. And so the question is Utah State recruiting good enough to compete in the Mountain West, or are we in trouble?
I would say as of right now, we're doing all right. Let's keep in mind one thing. Stu Morrill always gets more out of lesser talent than really oftentimes good coaches get out of great talent. Ty Wesley versus Luke Babbitt. Babbitt's a great player. I think a lot of people, if you give them the choice, they might take Babbitt, and that's understandable. But head-to-head, Ty Wesley got the better of him more often than not. He just kind of was able to out-hustle him and outsmart him and do the things he needed to do. 4 and 5 stars doesn't automatically mean great player. You can look back to a lot of those entire Nevada teams. You look at the 2009 Nevada team. They had a handful of really good players in the likes of, Luke Babbitt, Joey Shaw, Dario Hunt was a good player and a decently rated recruit. Bunch of guys that just, very good, but at the same time, you take this ragtag bunch of not that highly recruited, well-coached USU guys, and we go on their home court for the WAC Tournament Championship and smack them.
Well, I think the perception factor in this cannot be overstated, that people look and go, well, obviously, no one's going to ever come play in Logan, Utah. We can't recruit athletic kids. We can't recruit blah, 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 what have you. Who do we have coming in this year? Probably 2 of the most athletic players ever to play for Utah State, and JoJo McGladstone and Jalen Moore.
Yeah.
There is a disconnect that people for some reason want to ignore the success that we have had with the players and the caliber of players that play for this program, and the fact that we are on the rise as far as the caliber of players we're bringing in.
Here's the thing. I look at the guys that, like you said, we have made a living as a basketball program off of guys who weren't really recruited by much of anybody. That's been our bread and butter, is that we've taken guys and developed them into talent. And you look at guys like Jalen Moore, who, FYI, if he had not committed to Utah State, you would have seen him get offers from the likes of some of the teams that we're now claiming are just blowing us out of the water.
Same with Marcel Davis.
Same with Marcel Davis. Look, I get it. San Diego and Vegas, they're going to land these guys because, frankly, if you're a kid with 1 year to play before you hit the limelight of the NBA, of course you're going to go to Vegas or San Diego. Like, why not? But you know what? That doesn't guarantee anything. It doesn't. And you look at the guys that Stu has landed so far. Darius Perkins. I like that kid a lot. He was recruited highly out of high school, had some academic problems, was recruited by the likes of UConn, several Big East schools. That's a kid that Stu can take and mold him into a Utah State player. He's going to be dynamite. We've already talked about Jalen Moore.
Same with Chris Smith.
I like Chris Smith
same
a
place
lot.
As Spencer Butterfield.
I think Aggie fans will fall in love with him.
Same areas in Nevada were hot after him,
yes.
and he chose to be an Aggie. So I think you're seeing, maybe a year or two ago, we might not have beat out those schools for a guy like this. Now we're in the Mountain West. Mm-hmm. Now we're set up to compete. Stu is able to sell that to these guys. We're going to be I'm optimistic and feeling good enough right now about our near future.
Well, and let me, I suppose, take a brief tangent away from recruiting and talk specifically about Stu. People, for some reason, do not believe that there is this idea out there that the Mountain West is this incredibly coached conference at this point in time. Okay? The facts don't lie. There are 2 coaches who currently are coaching in the Mountain West Conference who have been there and had any sort of success. I mean, beyond, you got Boise State and Fisher at San Diego State, correct? Every other coach is in less than 2 years at this point.
Carter at Nevada might be above that.
Yeah.
Isn't he?
I thought we were talking about success.
Successful.
Whoa.
But like people are like, oh, New Mexico, UNLV, these programs with all this storied tradition and whatnot, their coaches have left to go to other programs. Mm-hmm. There is transition that's going to be happening there, and people are using those programs as stepping stools to get where they're supposed to be in larger coaching games. Okay? With that in mind, Fisher's not going anywhere.
Nah.
You could see Boise State's coach, God, his name's just completely eluding me right now.
Rice?
Anyone?
Leon Rice? Is that
Yeah,
it?
Leon Rice, I believe.
Leon Rice?
Yeah.
You could see him jump ship for somewhere at some point. But the fact is Stu Morrill will be coming into the Mountain West Conference, be one of the longest tenured coaches in the conference, and I think he'll be successful from the beginning. So, yes, there is going to be this whole adjustment period, but you're bringing one of the best coaches in the nation for what we want to do into this specific system.
And I don't want listeners to misunderstand us. We're not predicting Utah State will go in and trounce anybody. They're picked to finish, 4th, 5th. That's accurate for what this team is. But you give Stu Morrill time, it's going to be okay. And frankly, and this is my last point on this, any coach that could bring 5-star prospects to Logan and tell them to come to Logan over Vegas and San Diego wouldn't be here very long.
Nope.
It's exactly the point I've been trying to make for a long time, in that people discount the edge that our coaching is going to be able to give us, because we are not, New Mexico and UNLV, yes, they've got fantastic recruits and talent, but Stu Morrill has proved time and time again that, especially, and I'll throw it out, his halftime adjustments can break opposing teams. And I expect that we will see that happen during the next year.
We'll be fine. As long as you are beating the teams you're picked in front of consistently, home and away.
And then defending your home court.
That is the recipe for success in the Mountain West. Doesn't matter what Vegas and San Diego are doing. Thank you, everyone, for tweeting in. We always enjoy answering your questions.
If you can't tell by the length of our answers, man.
They're so good, though. They're so much fun.
Like 2/3 of this whole show.
Tweet them in anytime at USU Front Row. And like we said, it takes up most of the show anyway, so tweet us more.
That's how much we love you guys. We're devoting most of the show.
Front Rowers Unite.
It's that time in the show now where we don't really have a rant to finish anything off, but we all got a few things to say. Let's round it off with some last words.
It's over, Johnny.
Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!
All right, I'll start it off tonight. My last words are this. Aggie fans, do take care of the little things first. We all want Utah State to grow into this national football powerhouse. In order to do that, it starts by packing Romney Stadium for even games against teams like Hawaii. Take care of the little things first, and you'll see the progression of the football team expound and grow bigger and bigger and bigger.
Kind of following that up. I mean, we didn't even plan this, but the main point of my last words is get stoked on it. Look, football is still a really good team. We got a rough start to the season, but we're probably still going to finish 8-4. And think back to 3 years ago, you would have killed for that. And on the other side of that, basketball had a couple down years. A lot of things went wrong for us. We have built some experience and built a roster that is primed for success. This team is going to be good. And we might lose some games here and there. We might have some tough losses in the Mountain West Conference, but they're going to be really, really fun to watch. Like I said, football is still great. Basketball is going to be great. Get stoked on it.
Well, looks like yet again we all three sit in concurrence over this kind of thing. I just think
it's not planned.
We saw a good turnout for an exhibition basketball game, which brings me a lot of hope. There were some freshmen there apparently who started lining up really early for the game, which brings me hope.
They got stoked on it.
They got stoked on it. And that's, honestly, it comes down to that individual effort of saying, you know what, let's just make it out to the game. I'm going to bring some people and tell people and get them excited about the game. The student section can make all the difference both at football and at basketball games. And, we've had a couple down years ourselves as a student section. But the message I want to leave you with tonight, guys, is that you can fly, you can fight, and you can crow. All right? So make this happen.
Oh, bangarang Rufio. Well, should we wrap this up, Jeff?
Let's do it.
If you can stop giggling.
I'm sorry.
Giggling with glee.
That was
and
just too perfect.
Great stuff.
completely cryptic anticipation.
Ooh.
See, we all know something that the rest of you will find out in the coming weeks.
Yep.
We hope
You know
you
what?
enjoy it.
I'm going to make a prediction. In the coming week.
Oh!
Oh, yeah.
Something is
yeah.
is coming,
Can I
Aggie
get more
fans.
nice stuff for that one?
No, you're in control of that one.
Dang it.
Something is coming, and it's big. Thanks for listening to the Front Row Show. You know how to get a hold of us on social media. Interact with us at the games, too. Come say hi. Come join the dark side this Saturday. I'll plug that for you, Matt.
I'll tell all my idiot friends to behave, too. I mean,
Sure.
Not that I haven't had to do that every game so far, but, sorry about them. There's not much more I can say. Trying to keep them under control.
I was halfway convinced you were going to say, I'll tell my idiot friends to get under control. Not that they're idiots. But no, you just embrace that fact.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no hiding behind that one. Yeah.
Enjoy Aggie basketball on Friday and Aggie football on Saturday. For the Front Row Show, I'm Jeff Browning.
I'm Lance Rasmussen.
And I'm Matt Sonnenberg. Go Aggies!
Science.
Shut the Lance. Do what we must because we can. Okay, enough.
We gotta finish the verse off at least.
Okay, go.
For the good of all of us,
Except for those who are dead. Hey, Aggie fans, thanks again for listening to this episode of The Front Row Show. Be sure to download all our archived episodes on iTunes, follow us on Twitter at USU Front Row, like our page on Facebook at facebook.com/USU Front Row, and subscribe to us on our new YouTube channel at youtube.com/USU Front Row. Go Aggies!